Yo, what's going on everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another Boruto 2 Blue Vortex discussion. Today I want to talk to you guys about why the last chapter, chapter 15 of 2 Blue Vortex, has just changed things in a major way for two characters that has potential to shake up the lore moving forward in 2 Blue Vortex, with those characters being Kashin Koji and everyone's favorite walking Otsutsuki worshipping punching bag, Code. The seeds have been planted for a fated clash between the two of them, the Otsutsuki worshipper and the Otsutsuki traitor, and we're about to find out why Kashin Koji was so desperate to not have his identity learned by anyone, which is the mute point now that Amado has figured out that Kashin Koji is alive. What those ramifications will be as far as Amado, we don't know yet. Join me in today's newest Naruto Explain video where we unpack the narrative seeds of Kashin Koji versus Code and why this pending battle has a massive chance to be the unexpected shakeup that we never expected in the story, which is coming up to us faster than the release of the official Naruto Explained weighted plushie that is available on Gimme Swag's website, which I can say amazing quality because I had a hand in helping design it. It comes with a weighted and removable championship belt which has the channel logo on it, as well as the 10-10-316 shirt, which is required of our daily Lady 1010 memes, and it pays homage to my second favorite wrestler of all time, Stone Cold Steve Austin, famous for the Austin 316 line. Use my promo code Naruto Explain 15 as in one word to get 15% off your order. And best of all, if we don't hit 100 plushies order, then it is 100% fully refundable. So it is a win-win. We hit 100 orders and you get a cool plushie that we spent months designing. And if we don't hit it, then you get your money back. Either way, you have helped support the channel and you are deeply appreciated. Pre-orders are now live via my link in the description box and the pinned comment until December 3rd. Looking at Kashin Koji versus Code, we know that Code has entered into this agreement to track down both Boruto and his helper, which we know is Kashin Koji, in an effort to kill them as a part of the agreement that he had with Jura. If he does this favor for Jura, then Jura will allow Code to be the one who eats the chakra fruit. While it is very unlikely that Jura allows this to happen, if for no other reason than he was written as being curious about what would happen if he consumed the chakra fruit, Code is operating under the assumption that his pride's been wounded and that carrying out this mission will give him a chakra fruit in the end. As readers, the logic behind this is not too crazy at all. The one constant that we've seen in damn near every possible future that Kashin Koji saw regarding Boruto and Kawaki's futures is that each and every time Kawaki, he was the weak link. It's something that Jura has come to believe based on his own words and actions so far in the 2 Blue Vortex story. He hasn't been shown bothered by Kawaki. He served him with a two-piece and no biscuit, and Kawaki knew that he was out of his league, watching Jura from afar and choosing not to directly engage with him until he knew exactly what it was he was dealing with. The only one Jura has been worried about is Boruto, and it is very telling. Jura has the numbers advantage, yet after their initial battle where they gained up on Boruto and Boruto escaped, Jura hasn't tried to make Boruto the target of consumption. Instead, he has flat out marked him as being someone that needs to be killed, believing Boruto's too dangerous to be left alive, likely because of the manner at which Boruto's growing and adding so many dangerous jutsu to his arsenal. It is telling that Jura came to this conclusion despite Boruto being someone that ideally he would want to feed to a Ten-Tails, but Kawaki on the other hand, Jura has treated him like an afterthought, like he can simply stroll into Konoha and snatch him up as easy as taking a carton of milk off the shelf at the grocery store. While Code being sent after Boruto and Kashin Koji is likely Jura hoping for a best case scenario of both people, they just kill each other or they do enough damage to one another that the winner can be killed when someone steps out the shadows of a claw mark, something that we know Jura isn't afraid to do since he sneaked attack Boruto with the sniper bullet before. I think the Code versus Kashin Koji matchup is more deserving of something even larger than that from a narrative payoff perspective. I think it's a lot larger, to be honest. One of the driving factors for Code has been his need to carry out Ishiki's will to harvest a chakra fruit, but he has also named people who were responsible for the death of Ishiki as being the ones he wants to make suffer before he does so. in every instance where he named people, he always left Kashin Koji off the list, and it is likely, very likely, that Ishiki, when he told him everything that led up to his death, likely told him that Kashin Koji assisted in the murder of Jigen and indirectly in the murder of Ishiki, but Ishiki, like Amado, most likely assumed that Kashin Koji was dead, having escaped with severe injuries, life-threatening injuries. Ishiki likely thought this guy was going to crawl into some ditch somewhere and just die off screen. Unless Code was going to dig up a corpse of Kashin Koji to slap it and then take a leak on it, there was no point in naming Kashin Koji for revenge. He was so unbothered that he never asked Ada, hey, can you verify that Koji's dead? He seemingly just took Ishiki's words at it, because again, Ishiki never named the guy, unlike the others who Code knew they were still all alive. This makes you go back to Kashin Koji specifically, asking if Code was around before the Jigen fight and look at it a whole lot closer. That was Code who still had his limiters, and Kashin Koji at least respected his power enough to be worried about whether or not Code was there. That in of itself is a major red flag for Kashin Koji, because Code is now stronger than Jigen, the very same Jigen who was so powerful that Kashin Koji called fighting him when he was only at 10% power to be an opportunity of a lifetime. While Koji didn't need Sage Mode until Ishiki was reborn, there's enough to say that Code, who is now stronger than Jigen, is going to provide a tough matchup for Kashin Koji if he is caught off guard. Koji, he had the benefit of prep time, Jigen being capped to 10% of his power, and having a blueprint for how to exploit all of Jigen's weaknesses as an Otsutsuki vessel. While Code doesn't have the hacks that Jigen did, like being able to shrink himself down and shrink ninjutsu, absorb ninjutsu, or even erase his chakra, there are other issues that Code presents to Koji, most of which are regulated to the massive gap in power that exists between the two. Assuming, of course, that Koji hasn't grown stronger since then, which we can speculate that he has, but we don't know for certain, and we won't know for certain until these two engage in a battle. And even then, any back and forth between the two, we have to ask, is Code playing around? That is very important to keep in mind, because Code's tendency to play around with people, particularly those he wants to suffer, is going to be something that gets him in trouble when he does track down Kashin Koji. It's one of those rare instances where him being so unserious when fighting against someone weaker than him might result in him biting off more than he can chew. Koji is both intelligent as well as skilled enough that when he went into Sage Mode, he was able to briefly fight very valiantly against Ishiki, even with the argument that can be made, the likely argument that Ishiki was fighting down to his level to have fun with Koji to test out his new body. It's still pretty impressive nevertheless. There's enough ninja trickery and intelligence that Code could wind up in trouble when that fight takes place. In fact, I venture to say that when the fight does occur, Code's going to end up putting himself at several disadvantages for a few reasons. The shock of seeing someone in Kashin Koji who should be dead now living and breathing. Then the anger at not only seeing someone who killed Jigen still being alive, but also knowing that he was still a traitor by helping Boruto, which directly goes against him being a former KRYPTONIAN inner member, since they were supposed to serve the Otsutsuki, and that could lead to Code going into full-blown sadist mode and trying to make him suffer instead of going straight for the kill. After all, how many times have we seen people like Madara hold back and not kill people like the 5 Kage because the guy was just super curious about what the extent of their power was? You've heard me say it a few different times, how Boruto villains have a tendency to exhibit some of the more basic traits of your standard shonen villains, where they get overconfident and they just start playing around, which leads to them being in uncomfortable situations. It is a trope that gets used so much because it's one that's worked for decades, and decades later from now, it'll be something that continues to work. Code taking the time to fight down to the level of those he wants to make suffer is likely what led to him getting the slash over his eye when he and the Ten Tails army, they jumped Sasuke. That battle, it happened off screen, so we don't know much about what happened, but given the past behavior of Code, which past behavior is a good indicator of future events, it seems likely that this is what happened with Code during that battle, which we likely get to see more of now that we know Boruto tried to use Karma during that battle and Momoshiki almost took over. we can say with damn near certainty that Ikimoto at some point is going to show that. I think if you're a Code fan, then you at the very least have to be worried that this ends up being the case here, that he puts himself in a position where he almost costs himself the fight. He probably still wins, but he makes it closer than it needs to be because he plays around so much. Think about it. Boruto was able to attack Code with just the basic use of karma during their first fight, back when Code still had his limiters, despite Code being someone even then being significantly stronger than Boruto. Someone as crafty as Kashin Koji is likely going to be able to pull off a few techniques that limit the playing field here that Code can take advantage of. Basically, if this was a chess game, Koji would be able to take away some of his moves with this strategy. It would also prove Kashin Koji's concerns to be correct. He said that he didn't want anyone to know that he was still alive, telling Boruto that basically the future hinged on his survival based on when you read in between the lines what Boruto said in the last couple of chapters. So the idea that Jura and the Shinju are going to be able to watch the battle, potentially gain intel watching the fight, and then Jura is able to go into that magical book of his that seemingly has all this information in the world inside of it. He's likely going to skip to the section that deals with Kashin Koji, potentially Jiraiya, and begin to come up with some type of a method to kill them. Koji wasn't written as having fear for his safety for no reason. The same with Matsuri and Gaara getting so close to Koji in the flashback of the last chapter, fighting in a different section of the hideout that belonged to Orochimaru in the Land of Wind, where Kashin Koji just happened to be hiding in. I think we might need to consider the possibility of Kashin Koji being the person responsible for Code finally getting a legit W after he's had his limiters taken off. Basically, Koji would serve to Code what my New York Giants serve to teams playing us this year in the NFL. We basically serve as a get-right game since the offense can't score 20 points, which is almost as shocking as the quality of the chapter 15 review over here on the left, and over here on the right we have my new video from Anime Explained where I discuss non-Naruto content.